Greetings and welcome for all of you who are watching. You're tuned into TMH and this is our daily English news. Our headlines for today: the special envoy of the Secretary General for the Horn of Africa says the UN is following up Eritrea's actions to avoid any impositions of violence on the people of Tigray. U.S.-Africa summit urged to ensure recommitment of both the U.S. and the African to rule-based multilateral diplomacy as well as partnership. And Eritrea is said to be the most dangerous player currently in the battle in the Horn of Africa. Moving on to our main updates for today, the special envoy of the Secretary General for the Horn of Africa says the UN is following up Eritrea's actions to avoid any impositions of violence on the people of Tigray. Hana Sarwatata, the special envoy of the Secretary General for the Horn of Africa, made the remark in a conversation with the Institute of International as well as European Affairs, Ireland's leading international affairs think tank, regarding the Pretoria Agreement signed on the 2nd of November between the Ethiopian government and the Tigray leadership. Let's take a listen.
Eritrea was not mentioned in the agreement, and there's no reference to any Eritrean involvement in the conflict. Though, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, we are aware of the presence of Eritrean forces within Tigray, even though the information we have suggests that there has been some withdrawal to within their border. In the second agreement, that is the Nairobi Declaration, it refers to the withdrawal of foreign forces, and it makes this It anticipates that this will go along also with the process of disarmament. And as I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, discussions relating to disarmament are the discussions that are taking place at the moment. So what it appears to be the case is that, and I'm choosing my words carefully, what appears to be the case is that the Eritrean government has noted the peace agreement, has begun to move backwards. It seems that the relations between the federal government of Ethiopia and Eritrea I'm not sure the appropriate word to use, but let's say that they still continue to engage each other because it appears that they were collaborating in this conflict. As to what it will be going forward, I think it depends very much on how this agreement is implemented. And of course, to make sure that there isn't a situation where there is the continued, if you like, imposition of violence on the people of Tigray by any Eritrean forces from either within the region or moving from their border into the northern region of the country. So I think it just is a situation that we will have to continue to observe in order to have a better understanding of what's going on.
She also called for pragmatism and some level of flexibility on both sides to implement this agreement. In other news, member of Tigray's Central Command, Getachew Reda, said Isaias Afwerki, by continuing to carry out his genocidal campaign against the people of Tigray, obviously is reminding the world he is in charge and unrepentant. He wrote on his official Twitter account that unfortunately the international community seems to have fallen for the trick. Moving on to our next update, the U.S.-Africa summit urged to ensure recommitment on both sides with the U.S. as well as Africa to rule-based multilateral diplomacy as well as partnership. Dr. Mahari Tadalamaru, who's a professor at the Migration Policy Center at the European University Institute in Florence, Italy, made the remark in an article he wrote regarding the U.S.-African Leaders Summit being held in Washington, D.C. under the title Accountability at the U.S.-Africa Summit. The writer stated that such rule-based multilateral diplomacy as well as partnership should aim to foster resilient constitutional democracy and accountability. He urged the U.S. to work with other veto power-wielding democracies and the AU and its 55 member states to do what is necessary to stop the ongoing atrocities and violations of shared norms in the international law. He added that the Biden administration should send a loud and clear message: despots and war criminals have no place in the U.S.-African summit, and the summit should not be used to embolden autocrats who should have their days in courts of law or be marched off to the International Criminal Court. This summit comes at a time when several wars in Africa, including one of the world's deadliest war in Ethiopia's Tigray region, and the protracted conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo have culminated in preventable mass atrocities, including ethnic cleansing, acts of genocide, crimes against humanity, including war crimes as well. Dr. Mahadi said the sustainability, of the U.S.-African partnership eventually depends on whether the summit puts the rights and aspirations and dignity of the people of Africa, particularly the youth, at the center of deliberations. He noted that for young generations in Africa, values such as democratic accountability are integral to national security interests, inseparable from human security, and crucial for economic progress. Eritrea is said to be the most dangerous player in the Horn of Africa currently. The whole region of the Horn of Africa is worse off than 5 years ago, mainly due to what The Economist dubbed the Horn's spoiler-in-chief. The Economist wrote that at the heart of the region's recent travails lies Eritrea. In 2020, its veteran dictator Isaias Afwerki threw his vast conscript army into Ethiopia's civil war to aid Abiy in his battle against the Tigrayan forces. He will not pull them back voluntarily now. Isaias considers the Tigray leadership along Eritrea's southern border as an existential threat, and the Tigrayans regard him with similar hostility. The Economist said Isaias Afwerki may try to spoil the peace deal that Abiy has struck with them, and Isaias's menace goes beyond Tigray. Several thousand Somali troops sent to Eritrea for secret training by Mr. Mahmoud's predecessor have yet to return home. Isaias appears to want to use them as leverage over Mr. Mohammed, Sudan's leaders, and fear that if Eritrean forces prevail in Tigray, that Isaias may turn his sight on eastern Sudan, and Eritrea has a history of supporting Sudanese rebels as well. According to The Economist, Western countries will be watching Isaias closely in the year of 2023 and may step up economic sanctions, as well as relations with Russia and China complicate the matters even more. China is Eritrea's most important foreign financial backer and is extending its control over the country's crucial mining sector. Russia, which seeks a naval base on Red Sea, could also be sending arms to help. The Horn's spoiler-in-chief is unlikely to change its behavior while it enjoys the backing of such powerful friends, as The Economist concluded with. Moving on to our final update, General Zawdu Belai, who is an ethnic Amhara commander of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces in the Central Army Division, has been assigned to run the military campaigns in the Oromia region as part of the newly established Transitional Committee government for Oromia. KMN reported that Temesgen Turuna, Aganyo Tagara, as well as both from the Amhara as well as Adam Farha, who is a Somali, are the members of the traditional community. 14,000 of the 17,000 troops in the Central Army Division have so far been deployed into the Western Oromia region, also known as Welaga. On that note, that concludes our news for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll be back for some more tomorrow. Bye-bye.